This is the DRA Overview tutorial. It's important that you watch this tutorial even if you've done the DRA before, because some of the procedures and frameworks we've set up at the American Community School are important to follow for the overall collection of data. To begin, what is the DRA? The DRA is a standardized test in the sense that it allows us to test students from KG 2 to 5 in a standard way using standard forms and procedures. We use the DRA to inform our instruction to find out what students need to know next and how we can best support them. We give the DRA twice a year. The DRA is not used for our reporting purposes. We don't correlate DRA scores to our report cards. Nor is the DRA the only assessment or even the best assessment that we give to find out how our kids are doing. The DRA is an inefficient assessment. It takes a lot of time to give and isn't worth doing more than twice a year unless you have extenuating circumstances, which I'll speak about at the end of this tutorial. To administer the DRA at ACS, we've implemented some frameworks that are there to support you. First of all, we've engineered a testing window, which ensures that all teachers give the test at the same time of the year and allow us to come together for planning purposes for spaces as well as supplies. We have strived to have consistent testing procedures. We've also set up an opportunity for there to be consistent, timely data analysis of the DRA. To begin, the testing window is usually a 2-week time span, which is already on the ES calendar. The final day of the window is when the forms are due to the office. If you find that during this testing window you're having trouble getting to all your students, maybe you were out sick or you had several students who were sick, it's important that you make people aware of that so that we can assist you. The first group to tell, of course, is your team. Following that, let someone in the office know, and we can find if there's another person on staff that's willing to give some of your assessments or to help you out of the weeds. The DRA has many components and supplies. These are the important ones. First of all, the DRA kits are located in your classrooms. There is a green kit for grades KG 2 to 3 and a blue kit for grades 4 to 5. It's important that you stick to those kit boxes because the assessments, although similar every now and then in these kits, are different, and we need to make sure that we stay within the kit according to your grade level. We have taken the time to make photocopies of all the test papers and organize them into file cabinets so that you don't have to ask your assistants to make copies. Inside these files, you'll find both the tests and the student booklets if your level requires one. It's important that you only take what you need and return what you don't use. I try to keep this up to date, but of course if you find a level's running out, let someone in the office know and we'll be sure to get more tests in there as quickly as possible. On these testing booklets, you'll notice that there are teacher instructions that you need to follow. At ACS, we've decided to make all of our DRA tests yellow colored, which helps us identify that these are those important tests that we're giving 2 times a year. If you are using test booklets or testing levels 28 and above, there will also be a student booklet where the students do most of the writing. Those also have instructions for teachers. Every now and then they vary depending on the level, so make sure you read them. There are many reporting forms that we provide to the curriculum office. Most of those can be found on the server. If you follow the stars here, you should find them. One other thing that has been provided is a checklist which will be updated at each window, fall and spring. This checklist helps to get you organized and to remind you of the components that you need to turn in a timely manner for us to gather all the data. One of the first forms that you'll be using is the class reporting form. This form is used for both the fall and spring test. You'll use the same form. There are directions for completing it, which would be very helpful if you followed. The person who does the inputting of this information doesn't give the tests. She receives all the teacher reports, and it's easier for her to input them in a quick and timely manner if we all do them the same. Please look for these directions and the class reporting form on the server. There is also a student reading survey, which you should give kids if they're reading at 28 and above or in spring for grade 2. This reading survey will be copied and ready for you to take during the testing window so that you don't have to waste time at having your assistant copy it. There are Focus for Instruction pages, which will go to the curriculum office. These are banded by levels. You can see on this one I've indicated levels 4 to 12. These will be completed and turned in. You may have more than one Focus for Instruction form, depending on the levels of your students. These will also be provided for you at the beginning of the window. Something new we're trying this year is a check-in form. It's important that our DRA kits maintain all their components. Sometimes books get lost or we find books that don't belong in kits where they shouldn't be. No longer will this be a job of the literacy coach. It is up to you to make sure that your kit has all its components and to clearly communicate what it's missing. If kits end up missing too many booklets, it will be costly and we will have to order new kits. These check-in forms need to be completed and turned into the office no later than the Tuesday following the end of each window. You can find these on the server too. To give the DRA assessment, it's important that you're familiar with the teacher guide, which is inside your kit, and the ACS DRA guidelines that we wrote a couple of years ago. This tutorial is really just an overview to get you ready, but the actual administration of the test comes from these two items. When you're giving the test, it's important to note, and this may be different from prior schools you've taught at, that we are looking for specific things. At ACS, we are interested in students' independent level with instructional needs. What that means is we are looking for an independent range with identified needs at the instructional level. Most of the time, what we'd like to see is a reading engagement score of at least 6, an oral reading score around 11 or 12, a comprehension score at 19 or 20 for KG 2 to 3, and for grades 4 to 5, a comprehension score of 17 or 18. Those scores need to also include instructional components that you can teach. If you look at this chart here, you'll see most of the little bubbles are blue. However, those that are red indicate areas where students are not yet independent. This is a good picture of a student that's at the right level for us to target teach. If there were no red dots, there wouldn't be enough for us to teach him, and thus this level would be too low for him. Similarly, if there were too many red dots, we would probably have to go down a level because the text was too hard. One of the things that you'll do after you complete the continuum that I just showed is the teacher observation guide. This is a very effective way to think about your next steps with a child once it's identified. You would select through checking some of these identified areas where a student was not yet independent. This then, and you would probably have 4 to 5 checked off. This then would get reported for the whole class. And as you can see, these check marks translate directly onto this form, where then we can see easy to groupings in easy to see ways. If you look at the summary bar there, you can see that although those students who need work in summary are at different levels, the target teaching practice that the teacher can work on is summarizing. This form also is one that I previously said would go to the curriculum office. We track this to ensure that we understand at different grade levels what areas teachers are predictably spending their time teaching students. One of the things which I mentioned we work hard on is ensuring consistent usage. It's important that you meet as a team to go over how you are completing these rubrics, sometime during the testing window. It might be a good idea to do it rather early so that you can help each other walk through how you're reading things on the DRA. There is a level of subjectivity to this test, and it's important that you use the teacher's guide and look at those exemplar answers that they provide for 3 and 4 descriptors. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, and these give you a good starting off place and certainly something useful for you to talk about in your team. The DRA requires retesting. It's sort of a fact of life. One of the reasons why you would retest in the DRA is if a student is reading either too slowly or has too many miscues. On the tests themselves, the intervention and instructional level, these shaded areas don't always show up on the yellow forms, but if you have a child who is in either of these areas or both, it's important that you assess whether or not you need to stop this particular test and drop down to a lower level. The idea being, if the student cannot read with a quick enough pace, fluency, and makes too many errors, then they are never going to be able to do the comprehension piece. Another reason when you might want to retest, and this slide actually doesn't indicate that, but if you have too many red instructional needs, it means the test is too hard, the text is too hard for the student, and there's too many points that you would need to teach into. You'd want to go down at a level and try it there. When you go to report your scores to the curriculum office, these are the two main pieces you will be turning in: the class reporting form and the focus for instruction. When you give these to the ES office, someone will look at them and make sure that everything is completed accurately before passing it on to the curriculum office. As I mentioned before, these are due on the last day of the testing window. After that, the curriculum office will put together something for us to analyze. We will set a date on the calendar for analyzing the data. The office will provide us with data that we can clearly see and communicate with both at grade levels and vertically. And with that data, we will talk about our programs as well as our students. One of the things we're striving for at ACS is to analyze data triangularly. The DRA is only one piece that we're using. The other pieces are MAP and Words Their Way. We look at how a student is doing in all of these assessments, as well as how we see them working in class, to get a better picture of them as an overall learner. There are times when you need to break the DRA cycle. That means when you will need to DRA 3 times in a year. You will not only DRA in the fall and the spring, but maybe sometime in the middle. The only reason for doing that is if you find a student is having major growth. That would happen primarily if you have a student who comes in very low at the beginning of the year in the fall, and through your solid and good teaching is making major strides. With those strides, you may want to break the cycle and DRA the student sometime mid-year so that you can be certain that they are hitting pivotal marks. The other reason why you would want to break the cycle is if they're nearing a nonfiction benchmark. Those are indicated in the ACS guidelines, but they are in grade 1, it's 16 nonfiction, grade 2, 28 nonfiction, grade 3, 38 nonfiction, grade 4, 40 nonfiction, and grade 5, 50 nonfiction. If during the beginning of the year you feel like a student is really reaching that and you want to go ahead and check them off on that particular text level, you can do that mid-year. Finally, we will have students that enter our school, not at the beginning and not at the end of the year, but sometime in the middle. When you have students enter, then they're recorded into PowerSchool and we know that they're here. We also want to make sure that we get them in for some testing, DRA and Words Their Way primarily. If you let the office know that you have a new student in your classroom, you will be given assistance in completing these tests. That's it for this tutorial. Thank you for watching, and of course I'm interested in any feedback on improving this or other pieces we could do to make this type of testing both accurate and fun to do at ACS. Thanks so much.